The passionate leader. Because leadership without passion is just a title.
Meeting, meeting, meeting. We got a collapse in the garage. Get the squad back living in here. We got an IV gone to a firefighter. It's on island urgent. Transmit a second aloft.
Hey everybody, welcome back to The Passionate Leader. On today's episode, we talk about something that is extremely important in the fire service, and is mental health awareness and things we can do to make ourselves better. Our guest today is Dr. Keven McNeill, who brings 27 years of combined fire and law enforcement experience to the table. He started in 1998 as a junior firefighter with the Dayville Fire Company and later served as a police officer, graduating from the 298th Connecticut Police Academy class. In 2016, a violent on-duty assault led to a PTSD diagnosis that ultimately ended his policing career. In 2022, he returned to the fire service, not just to serve, but to lead the charge in changing how first responders dealt with trauma. Today, he's a speaker, an author, and a founder of a peer support group focused on PTSD awareness, suicide prevention, and mental health in the fire and military communities. Kevin's mission is personal. His wife is a coordinator of their support group, and their two sons, ages 15 and 17, are both junior firefighters, with the oldest already setting his sights on going full-time. Their future fuels his fire. Armed with a doctorate and a master's in emergency management, Keven also holds certificates in crisis intervention and ASAP. Outside the job, he's an ultra-marathon runner, a therapy canine handler, and a relentless advocate for breaking the stigma around mental health. Kevin's message is simple. Leadership starts with vulnerability, and no responder should ever walk alone. Guys, welcome to the show, Keven McNeill. How are you, my friend?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and is there anything that I missed or anything you kind of want to touch on that I might have misspoke about?
No, I actually felt like I gave you too much.
Yeah, no,
Thank you.
it's good. Before we get too into it, I do want to kind of give a small disclaimer to our listeners and our viewers that tonight's topic is about anything and everything mental health awareness, PTSD, and this could be a little bit of a heavy topic if you got some little ones around. So if that's the case, please hit pause. There's a ton of other Passionate Leader podcast episodes that you can follow up on, and then come back to this one because you're going to want to give it the attention that it deserves. So without getting too into it, man, why don't we kind of walk us through how you got into the fire service and really what led you down to where you're at right here, right now?
Well, my story kind of goes deep as to why I went into the fire service. When I was 8 years old, I saw my first dead body, and unfortunately, it was a very close friend of mine that was involved in a motor vehicle crash, and came upon the crash, and I seeing him lying there in the road, and seeing the firefighters run around and try to help the other passengers in the car, and to see the police officers there, all these first responders just trying to attend to everybody. Um, it was right then and there that I realized that I was going to head down this path. I didn't quite know how to put it into words because obviously it was a traumatic event. But it sparked something in me, and one of the things is I never wanted, it was a DUI crash,
Mm-hmm.
and I never wanted somebody else or another family or friends to face that. So that's eventually why I went into the first responder world, because somebody along my way in my early teens said, if you join the local fire department, you'll be able to go and become a police officer because that's what they look for. They look for public service, and the volunteer world is a great place to kind of um, go into and get some training. And so I joined up right when I turned 16. I joined up to the local firehouse.
I love it. So I mean, we found each other obviously through social media and stuff, and it was your candid openness to talk about PTSD and stuff like that, and um, there in your bio we talked about incident that kind of was a tipping point in your career, walking away from a career in law enforcement after the violent incident that nearly broke you. What kind of finally made you say, I need help, and kind of get you down this path to want to help others?
Well, it's kind of a long battle. Really, it started in, like you said, 2016. It was a traffic stop gone bad. I was assaulted by multiple people, and it resulted in a traumatic lipoma to my neck, which I lost feeling in the left side of my arm. So I was hospitalized for a bit. I had to go through two surgeries. While I was out, I realized very quickly that being away from the job, because it was my first time in my entire career that I was away, and being out there kind of on an island without my brothers and sisters to kind of bounce stuff off of. And I didn't want to let my family know what was going on because at the time I had two young boys, and I had a wife that was
Hmm.
just a stay at home mom that was just she had a lot going on, and I didn't want to let them know what was going on. So what I did is I started to self medicate, and I
Gotcha.
did that through alcohol. And I was drinking pretty heavy, and I was in a really dark place, and I my self worth was just wasn't there, and I was making every excuse not to go get help. And one of the biggest concerns is when you're a police officer, if you go to your leadership and you say, I'm struggling with mental health, I'm having dark thoughts, I'm thinking of harming myself, they're going to take your gun, they're going to take your badge,
Hmm.
and you're going to have to fight to come back. It's not an automatic, they open the door and let you back. You have to fight. You have to go for a fit for duty. You have to go for all these things. So I knew all of this back then. So when I was in my dark place, I uh, I found myself in the garage one day, and I was sitting there, and I was pretty intoxicated. I'd been drinking for a bit, and I was thinking, I have nothing left to live for. I just my life is over. I'm probably not going to be a cop anymore. I really just kind of put all my eggs in one basket in my career. As I always identified as a cop. Everything I did was I bled blue. I was just like you said, I was in a really dark place, and I started to contemplate suicide. And I started to take attempts to do that. And by the grace of God, my youngest son came in and caught me in the middle of it and said, Dad, what are you doing? And it broke me from that moment. And I broke down and started to cry and hug him. And I'm like, oh my God, I realized how close to the edge I was. And I was about to jump. And if it wasn't for my son coming in, I probably would have jumped. So that led me to go get some help. And I went and started talking to a therapist, a wonderful therapist who helped me through a lot of things. I clawed my way back through 2 surgeries to come back onto the job, and I was able to get cleared for fit for duty. And I know you're big on leadership, so you're going to appreciate this next part. When I went back, I decided that I was going to be honest with everybody, and I was going to be open about what happened. And so I went to the police chief, and I said, Chief, we got to talk, and I got to tell you what happened when I was out. I was very honest and straightforward, and I could tell by the look on his face right then and there my career was over.
Mm.
There was no way in hell he was going to put any more faith in me as an officer. He couldn't. Like I said, I was fit for duty, so I was good to
Right.
stay. But I knew if I tried to get promoted or anything like that, I was done. So so it hit me hard. It hit me really, really hard.
Yeah.
But I followed up. I kept in the therapy for it was about 2 years, and the therapy was going well. I started to run. I started working on my relationship with my wife and kids. And, I told my wife a little bit about what happened. I wasn't completely honest, but I thought I was going to be okay. I thought at the end of the day, I went through my dark spot. I survived it. I was coming out the other side, and life was going to be good moving forward. And then the pandemic happened, and life took a turn for the worse. Man, it was really bad in 2020.
Mm. Was it just a combination of everything that sort of brought it back around to the forefront for you, or was there kind of something that really was a tipping point, then again?
So I had, like I said, I had put the career first a lot in my life, and I was
Hmm.
starting to do that again. It was about a year before, so 2019, I was starting to put the career ahead of my personal life, and I was starting to work a lot of overtime. One of the things that the agency I work for had dangled a carrot in front of me for many years. I wanted to be a detective. I wanted to be a
Hmm.
homicide detective. To me, the homicide detectives are some of major crime folks are some of the
Sure.
best are the best.
Yeah.
So, I'd always worked really hard, and I knew I was qualified for the position. I had put in for it 16 times,
No
and
way.
finally, on the 16th time, they said to me, it was in 2020, right during the pandemic. They said, "We're going to pick you, but with the stipulation that you have 6 months to prove yourself. So pretty much put your life on hold, and you got 6 months. And if after the 6 months, we'll give you the gold shield." So they didn't give me the gold shield, but they gave me the silver shield, and they're like, just go for it. And that was the leadership within the agency. Um, And really all they did was to light a power keg, man. Because bad stuff
Sure.
happened.
I mean, now do you think that, because that happened after you had come back from, so do you kind of think maybe that was sort of them just playing the game with you and messing with your feelings and stuff like that? Or is it kind of just, kind of a victim of circumstance, so to speak?
I would hate to think that the leaders would actually do that to a human being. I would really hate to
Yeah.
think of it that way. So I try not
Amen.
to frame
Yep.
it out like that. I think it was finally they couldn't tell me no.
Okay. Fair
Because what would
enough.
happen is they would tell me no, and I'd go and work on, because I'd like, why didn't you pick me? I'd
Sure.
write it all down,
Good for you. Yep.
date and time we had the conversation. I'd go back and I'd work on it. If it was a personality thing, if it was an investigative thing, whatever it was, if I had to take more classes, I would just go back because I really wanted this position. It was that coveted position within the agency. Oh, so yeah, so they just couldn't deny me at that point. So to add that extra layer of you have 6 months to prove yourself, I think was to screw with me. I think in that
Sure.
sense.
Yep.
Um,
Yep. Yep.
so so I kind of knew that ahead of time, but I'm like, I'm gonna prove you wrong, and
Mm,
I'm gonna come out the other end, and I'm gonna
good for
show
you.
you in 6 months that I'm gonna be the best damn detective that you've ever seen.
Yeah.
So I put my life on hold, and what happened very quickly is it was right around that time we had a couple homicides back to back, and the city was rocking that summer because it
Hmm.
happened. I got put back there in June. By July, we were rocking in the city. Drive-by shootings. I mean, people getting stabbed.
Mm,
All kinds of multiple homicides. And what was happening is because they wouldn't let me rotate the on-call shift, I had to be on call for everything. So my life was constantly getting disrupted. My sleep was constantly getting disrupted. So what was happening is I could feel the stress building. It took about a month, but I could feel it building, and I could see all the red flags. I saw all these little things like, you can't do that. If you do that, you're gonna like if you ignore your family, you ignore your family time, and you keep answering that phone, it's gonna catch up to you. And that was like playing in my head, playing in my head, playing. But I'm like, you know something? This isn't 2016. This is different. If I
mm,
just suck it up and I keep going forward, life's gonna be different. Life's gonna be okay. I'm gonna make detective. I'll be on a Monday through Friday schedule. Yeah, I'll be on call, but it's rotating. Like there were so many things in my head. I was trying to downplay it.
mm,
So I was ignoring it. And this one particular day and I'm gonna get a little gross here, but this one particular day, I was in an autopsy. Autopsies are pretty nasty stuff to go see, and there's a lot of decaying bodies because they don't just bring one body out. It's not like the movies. They bring about 20 bodies out, and
hmm.
they put you in a room with 20 bodies, and you can't help to rubberneck and look around to see what's going
Sure.
on, and the
Yeah.
smell is horrific. So, I'm trying to keep my stomach contents in. I had been up at the time for about 30 hours because we got
Hmm.
called out for the homicide the night before. I hadn't slept, and then I went to the autopsy first thing in the morning, so I'm already tired, definitely exhausted, and I'm sitting there and I'm watching this guy carve up this body, and he's looking for a shell casing or a shell around in the body and in the pelvic region, and he's digging in there. He's got a soup ladle, and he's just like, it looks like Campbell's soup, and I'm like, what the what is going on, man? Like, I'm so messed up because I'm not having a reaction to this. I should have a
Sure.
reaction like this is gross, but I'm like, what is wrong with me?
Hmm.
So I'm like having this inner conflict, and so it's just like things were adding up, man, and so what I did that day, I can remember this day. I went home and I I poured myself a big old glass of whiskey, sat down on my recliner, and I was just numb, and I was staring at the TV, and I don't even remember what was playing, but I was just drinking and drinking and drinking, and then for weeks, that was my go-to. I would go bust my ass at work all day, have some conflict with some of the leaders because I had some really like vindictive folks that I worked with. I would have those conflicts, but I would always try to de-escalate and put the spot fires out. But I would come home and I'd have no energy for my family, and I would just drink and drink and drink. And the thing is, here's the funny part: I'm not really a drinker. It's like I'm more of a social drinker. So for me to be
Sure.
doing that is a huge
Yeah.
red flag.
Yep. Now, I mean, obviously, family suffers, and the first line, our first line of defense, I think, is usually our family. It's our spouses. It's the kids. And I would assume, obviously, as you started slipping down the path, it was probably starting to take a toll on your marriage. Yet again, I would guess, right?
Oh, absolutely. My wife is a saint, and we've been together since I'll say I was 19. So we've been together, 20 something years,
Hmm.
and she's probably gonna watch this and be like, Kevin, you better know the number. And I'm trying to do it in my head, but it's been a long time.
No, yeah, 100%. I always
So she
count
knew
time
me,
served.
right? I'm like, I'm running out of fingers.
Yeah.
So, my wife is a saint. She comes from a law enforcement family,
Gotcha.
generational. So she's used to dealing with the tough stuff. She's used to, having her dad come home and
Good,
and
good.
hearing stories from her grandfather. And she, like I said, she knew me before I was a cop. I was a fireman then, and I had some
Sure.
bad calls back then. But she was watching me over the years, just becoming a shell of myself.
Mm.
In 2020, she could see very quickly that I was heading in a very bad direction. So she started to intervene. And then what happened was, and I can't talk about this next part openly. Maybe someday I'll be able to, but
Yeah, no, of
some really
course.
bad stuff happened to me on duty. And I said, you know something, I came forward and I was kind of the whistleblower
Hmm. Of
with it because I wasn't the only one involved. And I blew the whistle on it, but it exploded. And
course.
um, so I started drinking even more to deal with
Mm.
that because the stress, even though I was told, hey, this is going to go nowhere, I was so, there's something called moral injury with PTSD. I had so much strong moral injury that I just couldn't overlook it. So I was drinking more. And then finally I went to the union and I said, I need help. Like, this is worse than 2016. Like, we need to do something. And, so the union said, "Okay, well, this is what you're gonna do. You're gonna go to the chief and you're gonna tell him you got a drinking problem, and you're gonna go to a 30-day program, and we're gonna get you clean, and then you're just gonna come back. Like nothing happened. Don't worry about the other stuff. That's not going anywhere. That's a department training issue. Don't worry about it." So that's kinda what was being told to me.
Sure.
So meanwhile, I'm all messed up, and, so I go home that night, when I talk to the chief, and of course the chief check boxes, "We're just gonna
Yeah.
send you to EAP, and you go talk to some marriage counselor," and even
Mm.
though it's not marriage, it's like PTSD, but they're
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, just let's see what happens." So
Right.
so they they throw me into administrative leave because I request it at that point. I said, "I need to go on admin leave," and, so I go on paid leave, and that night I go home and I get shit faced, like absolutely shit faced. And I end up ripping part of my thumb off
Oh,
at a
jeez.
campfire. I was out with my neighbors. I scared the crap out of them, but I just blew up and I have no idea to this day why. I think it was just all the tension. And I
Hmm.
slammed the shovel down and I ripped part of my thumb off. And so I go home bleeding. I'm a mess. I go home. I'm covered in blood. I'm coming through the door. It's like 11 o'clock at night. My wife's like, we need to talk. So
Yeah.
I'm like, yes, we do, but I need to sober up.
Yeah.
Uh,
Right.
so after that night, things started to change. I went to EAP. I went through all my therapy. Yeah, I was out probably about 4 months. I got my head straight. I stopped drinking. I started running again because running has always been a part of my life. So I was running, and like I was starting to lose weight. Like everything was starting to look great. I'm like, man, I feel good. But I started to see things different. And the biggest thing is I started to see leadership, and I know you're big on leadership, so you understand
Very
what I'm
big.
saying.
Yeah.
But I looked at leadership and I'm like, "You guys failed me. You
They did.
absolutely failed me in
Yep.
so many ways." And
Yep.
um, I was getting really upset about it in my mind, not openly, but I was getting really upset. But I came back, I did my fit for duty, and life was good. And I was like, "Okay, I got 5 years. 5 years and it's a prison sentence, but it's 5 years and I'm
Hmm.
done. Full pension, never have to work again." So I'm like, "Okay." And everything else blew over with that other incident. They were fine. You know, it's I talk about it in the book, but, there was, like, multiple incidents that they combined into one. I took my 10-day suspension, and I happily took my 10-day
Hmm.
suspension.
Sure.
It was like
Yeah.
a vacation.
Yeah. Of
Um,
course.
and then I went out and I came back and, I'm like, "Okay, life's gonna be different now, like, it's okay." They wouldn't let me be a detective. I got put back on patrol, so I went to the back shift and hid. And I'm like, "I'm just gonna live my life in the dark, work the night shift, be away from the brass."
Mm.
Things were going good, and then things went to shit again.
Mm. Yeah.
So
And I think in listening to your story, so one thing that I've definitely seen different between the fire service and the PD side is, especially me, because I mean, you were, want to be a detective. That's really into the real thick of things. From the fire side, we see, we'll see bodies at car accidents, or if we need to force entry into a house after somebody's taken their own lives. We might see the small remnants, but it's the stuff that the cumulative trauma. It's just like carpal tunnel, but it's for your freaking brain. And no, that this is really, really deep stuff. And I hope, if anything, our listeners are understanding that a lot of this probably could have been avoided if leadership hadn't failed. And the biggest thing is the acceptance of it's okay to not be okay. And it's a catchy, blingy phrase to say, but it really is the God's honest truth that it is okay to not be okay. And I would be willing to bet that probably some of, what delayed was not only self-denial, but, it'll pass. This too shall pass. And I think we're forced to, we're spoon fed that from, day one into the fire service. So to that, PTSD is always, it's even to this day, is still listed as a taboo word in all departments. What do you think, what's the most damaging myth you've seen surrounding it? And how do you think we can kill that narrative as far as the PTSD being a taboo word?
So I could talk about the law enforcement end because I
Yeah,
do
no, of
agree with you.
course.
The fire service is
Yes.
way different, and I'll get
Yep.
into that later, like how I got back into the fire service.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
the the difference, so in the police world, like I said, if you speak up, you're going to have some repercussions, and basically it's your gun and badge gone. You got to plead
Yeah.
your duty. So,
Yep.
um, but I think ultimately for me, is I was on the peer support team in our agency. I seek the training out because I care about my brothers and sisters, and I wanted to give back to, especially I was getting a little older on the job, so I had a lot of experience. I've had a lot of traumatic calls that I've been to, so I felt like being in that peer support position would allow me to give back to my agency in that sense. And um, I think one of the myths, or not really a myth, but something that's misunderstood, is that when stuff really blows up in a department, when someone's really struggling, the assumption is your peer support team's gonna surround you, right? Like, your brothers and sisters, they're gonna put this blanket over you, and they're gonna get you through it. But the reality of it is it wasn't even close to that. In fact, it was crickets on my phone for weeks afterwards, and I knew everybody was talking about it. Like, it's like high school at the PD. Like, the
Yeah.
gossip
Yeah.
the gossip train goes through that place quicker
Yeah.
than anything.
Sure.
So I think that the thing that really upset me is we had a peer group and nobody did anything. That really, because that goes against all your training in the peer world. It goes against the notion of the peer support team, and that's a major, major problem because who are you supposed to lean on? You're like, that's the whole point of the peer team is you lean on your brothers and sisters when you're struggling.
Yeah.
And to have and the thing is, none of those folks were involved in anything I was involved in because it was detective work outside of patrol,
Hmm.
and all the peer guys and gals were in patrol. So, they didn't really know because no one was really talking about things, but they knew I was struggling. And even when I told folks, "Hey, I'm out for this reason, this is why," you would think maybe one of them would come up and have a cup of coffee with me and say,
Mm.
"Hey, what can we do, man? This sucks." But nobody. So when I say I was out on an island, and my department's about 100 or so officers. When I say I
Hmm.
was on an island, I was literally on an island. I
Yeah.
had nobody other than my immediate family to help me through this. The union was a freaking joke. The union, now they're supposed to be this big union that helps their brothers and sisters out, but their peer team, no, they were non-existent.
Mm.
If anything, they were trying to ship me off for 30 days because here's the really screwed up thing. They're like, "Hey, listen, go away for 30-day program. You're gonna come back. You're gonna get the certificate. It's gonna say you have PTSD. They can't touch you at that point. They can't discipline you." And they were more concerned about the discipline, and I didn't care about the discipline part. I
Sure.
was like,
Sure.
I just want to get my head straight. So
Man, it's really frustrating when um people want to beat to this drum of this brother and sisterhood, and we bleed blue or bleed red, and then when stuff like this happens, it's so frustrating because it's an empty promise. And if it's so frustrating being from my agency is a heck of a lot smaller. So I mean, we just had, like, I got one of my best officers right now actually is taking a little bit of time to get himself, not he it's not a PTSD type stuff, but he was recognizing the burnout was starting to really affect him, and you could see it around the office in the firehouse during the calls. He was short tempered, and little things that somebody would say would just he's not the same person. So he's getting himself right where he needs to be, so when he comes back, and there's still a few that kind of, are like, well, why they're out for how long? It's like they're going to be out as long as they need to be to get their head where it needs to be, straight. And I think if anything that helped is, and it's not even really a help, but it kind of opened our eyes even farther was we had got called out for a pickup truck versus a motorcycle accident. Ended up being a fatality, and as we roll up with the truck, I see one of our guys' pickups stoved off into the ditch, and I'm kind of thinking to myself, he must have been really eager to get out of the truck because he literally deuced it off into the bushes. Well, come to find out, he was the driver that hit the motorcyclist.
Oof.
So it's something that I don't think I ever would have expected to see in my career, but what helped out a ton is this firefighter is very proactive when it comes to mental health and is extremely open to accepting help. And it's honestly seeing him go through what he's had to go through and come out onto the better end of it. And you get like that proud parent moment type thing where it's, you're like, dude, this is great that, we didn't have to, there wasn't a forced, you have to go do this. He did it on his own free volition. And, he's doing really good because of it. And so but to this, they do say, and in kind of the process when it comes to treating somebody for PTSD, that there is a family aspect of it too. From what I've gathered, there's kind of given some information to the spouses at home. So when you went through all of yours, was there support to help your wife kind of push through it too, or was she sort of kind of left on her own to figure things out as you went through counseling and stuff like that?
No, it was crickets. There was nothing, nothing
Jesus.
in place. And it was really, at the end of the day, it was the two of us
God
combining
damn.
efforts and
Yep.
saying, let's let's get through this together. Because I mean, we have such a strong relationship. We've been
That's
through
awesome.
as a couple so much,
Yeah.
so much stuff over the years. So this was so really, I should probably get into why I left policing. So I didn't leave policing
Yeah, no,
because
let's
what I
let's
just
work.
told you.
Yeah,
So,
let's work your way right
because it'll
through it.
make sense. It'll make sense, where she comes into the story
Yeah,
and
please.
really changes the direction.
Yeah.
So, I go back. I'm back on patrol. I'm hiding from the brass. I never wanted to look at them again. I just want to do my 5 years and that's it. A good friend of mine, who's someone I came up through the department with, that I looked up to as a leader, was a supervisor at the time, and he was my go-to, my rock. Like, he always had my back. I could go to him and tell him anything, and he was just the guy. He was the good guy to talk to and have a cup of coffee and just
Love
you
it.
know
Yep.
deal with whatever's going on. And he always had an answer for you. So, but he was on the opposite shift. So I was on evenings and he was on the opposite shift. So we hardly ever saw each other, but we'd see each other kind of in the hall during shift change and it'd be quick, hey, how you doing? And he was always like, yo, they're out to get you, get your shit right. Make sure, just make sure you got all your ducks in a row. And I'm like, okay, like I'm taking a suspension is what it is. I don't care.
Sure, sure.
So, so I'm like, what can they do to me at the end of the day? Like, I've already I put myself through hell. Like there's nothing you can do to me that's any worse than what I put myself through.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
so I was coming in for a shift. It was a couple weeks after the last time I saw him. We had gone out for a coffee and a bagel, and I was coming in the shift, and I was in a pissy mood that day, and I'm in the locker room trying to get changed to get on shift, and I was running late, and one of the loudmouth cops comes in, and he's like, "Yo, did you hear about so and so?" And of course I perk up, and I'm like, "What's up?" And he's like, "He's got COVID," and I'm like, "Oh, you kidding me?" He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "He's in the hospital." I'm like, "Oh man." So I'm like, "All right," and I go to like finish getting dressed, and then he goes, "It doesn't look good." I'm like, "What do you mean it doesn't look good?" He's
Mm,
like, "Nah, it doesn't look good, bro. Like they're sending the chaplain." And I'm like, "No, no, 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 no."
mm-hmm.
So so I go in a roll call. I'm texting him, and I'm like, "Bro, I hope you're okay." And I'm trying to figure out what do you say to somebody that's on
Right,
a
right.
ventilator. So I'm trying to figure out what to say. And I'm like running out. Finally, I'm just like, "Bro, you good?" And literally 30 seconds later, it was something like, "I'm gonna keep fighting, don't worry about me, just watch your back there." Like, he's thinking about me, the freaking guy's on a
Yeah.
ventilator, and
Right.
I was just like and I had a bad feeling, and, it was a couple days later I found out he had passed, and, it hit me like a ton of bricks,
Mm-hmm.
and I just come off everything that happened before, and I'm like, man, I'm starting to spiral. I'm not sleeping, but I'm like, I'm not gonna drink. I'm not gonna like. I would keep telling myself I'm just gonna keep pushing forward. I was running a lot, so I was doing ultra marathon. So I'm like, I'm just gonna run until I can't, till my feet bleed.
Mm.
And I'm trying to push through it, trying to push through it. And his death was really on my mind. So I go to my wife and kids, and I said, you know, what? I'm like, "Can you guys come to the funeral with me? I know I shouldn't expose the boys to this, but it's not a casket funeral.
Sure.
It's a celebration of life, but I can't do this alone. I need you guys." But I was really worried about taking my boys. They were younger, and I'm, like, really, really worried about that, but I'm like, "No, we're gonna take them." So we go to this celebration of life, and, as a family, we sit together and off to the side, because at that point, I didn't wanna be around a lot of my coworkers,
Sure,
and,
sure.
so people are up in front and they're talking about my friend's life and they're saying all these wonderful things. And I'm sitting there and I'm fuming. I'm absolutely fuming because I'm like, you did nothing but talk crap about him his entire career. You tried to railroad his
Mhm.
career. You've done everything to backstab him. And now you're gonna sit up in front of a couple hundred cops from all over our county and you're gonna talk about how great friends you were. I'm like, I
Yep.
knew all your secrets. You can't. So I was fuming, and then they did the last call. And I promised myself that was gonna I knew it was gonna be tough, and I'd sat through a lot of funerals before, but I was like, when they did the last call on the radio and they call us badge number and all that stuff, I broke down. I grabbed my wife, I'm like, "We gotta go. Like,
Yep.
I can't be here. Like, we gotta go." And we rushed out of there, and I'm like, I'm a mess at this point. And, around this time too, the union, was fighting this thing for me because I had gotten a doctor's note because I was getting really bad insomnia and I couldn't sleep, and I'm like, "You can't order me in for midnight." It's like, "I'm a PTSD survivor, like, please just give me some time," and I kept asking the city, and they were breaking my balls. So the union is like, we're gonna take care of this for you," so they're trying to fight it, and eventually the union called me back, and they're like, "You're screwed. Get rid of your doctor's note.
Thanks,
Like,
buddy.
you gotta work. You're gonna get mandoed. It is what it is. And if you don't, you're gonna get fired." So I'm like, okay. So I have this on top. I have my friend's death. I'm dealing with all this stuff.
Yeah.
I'm trying not to drink. I'm trying to do the right thing and trying to handle all my cases. I'm going to these nasty calls. Like I'm just trying to survive. And so I go into shift one night. I get a text from the lieutenant. You're mandoed. And he's like, "Do you still have your doctor's note?" And I'm like, "Well, I guess I'm taking the Mando." And I'm like, I hadn't prepared for it. I'm literally driving into work when I get the message. So I'm like, "Okay, it is what it is, man. I'm just gonna go and I'll suck it up." So I was trying to get the heat off me. And so I go in, checking a couple alarms, like bullshit. It was actually a pretty decent night, not a lot going on. And I'm clearing a call and I'm like, I'm getting chest pain. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm having a heart attack because I'm 40 years old. I'm in
Mhm.
the high stress, it
Yep,
always
yep.
happens. I'm getting the widowmaker. So I'm like panicking. I start ripping off my uniform. I pulled over the road. I jumped out of my car. I'm ripping off my uniform. I'm trying to catch my breath. I'm trying to hit the panic button on my radio. Somehow they hear me. Somehow someone gets sent up there, and I end up first guy that pulls up. He's like, "Hey, dude, are you okay?" And he's like, "I got an ambulance call." I'm like, "No, no, no. Like, I don't know what's going on. I think I'm having a heart attack, but I'm not sure." He's like, "Dude, you're having a panic attack, bro. Like, you need to take a couple deep breaths." And this guy, I trusted him. He's a great dude. He, solid cop. He'd been through a few shootings, so he was like, definitely, it's a guy you're gonna listen to when it comes to this stuff because he's like, I have had him before, so I know what I'm looking at. So so I have the panic attack and I'm like, crap, like I can't stay on duty. I'm a mess now. And I'm mandoed for, so it's going to look bad if I go home sick.
Right, right.
So I'm like, you know something? I don't know what to do. So I'm like, I'm going to call my wife and say like, listen, this is what's going on. So I'll never forget this. They were watching some movie like Titanic or something. I call up and I'm like, and it's a sad movie, but I'm like, hey, like, and I'm all down. She's like, what's going on? I'm like, I just think I had a panic attack.
Mhm.
And I'll never forget. She's like, come home. And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, hand in your badge, hand in your gun, and come home. You're done. Don't go back. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. She's like, just go. No, we're going to figure this out. I'm like, okay. So I go and tell the supervisor, this is what happened, hand them all my stuff. And of course they're like, are you going to kill yourself? I'm like, no, like I had a
Ugh.
panic attack because my friend died
Right, right,
and you
right.
guys are up my ass. And, so I end up going on administrative leave again. And of course it's Saturday night. So they make a big deal out of it. They
Sure.
call the chief and all this stuff. And so I go on administrative leave. Now I'm like, "You know something? This time I'm out." I'm like, "It's different. It's different. I'm not going back."
Yeah,
So I'm
good for
like,
you.
"I'm going for a disability pension." I'm like, "Screw this. Like, I cannot do this job anymore. It's not safe for me to do it. yeah, I could probably suck it up and go back, but I'm gonna ruin my marriage. I'm gonna ruin my life. I'm gonna be a shell of myself after 5 years. Like, I'm going for the disability pension. So that's what I started to do. And I started going to see all these doctors. And, of course, everybody's got an opinion, but everybody was confirming what was already known. So there's
Yeah.
no secret. So I went through all this. It took a couple months. And so I go to the pension board, present to the pension board. Here's a mistake. I should have got an attorney, but I didn't. So I present to the pension board. And I'll never forget this. There was a fire department officer on the panel. Type of guy, you know those guys that get promoted that probably shouldn't be promoted,
Oh,
that are
plenty
just
of them.
cowards? You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Those textbook cowards?
yep.
So this guy's on the council, and I know him, or excuse me, he's on the panel, and I know him, I know his history, I know all his little secrets, but I didn't recognize him at first, and then once I realized who he was, I was like, "Oh, I know you, buddy."
Hmm.
And, so he makes the comment to me. He goes, "How do we know you're telling the truth? How do we know you actually have PTSD? How do we know this? It's not like a broken leg, broken back, or cancer. How do we know?" So I lost my ever loving crap. And I said, "You know something? I don't know how much more honest I can be with you guys. I've literally just put this all out there, and I put my whole life out there for you to judge me, and somebody that should be understand as a first responder, yeah, what this is all about, and you're gonna downplay it, and you're gonna."
Yeah.
So yeah, so they're like, their recommendation, you got to go see more doctors. So I left there, and I'm like, okay, okay, this is what I'm gonna do. So April Fool's Day, 2022, I wrote my resignation letter, sent it to the chief, done, and I resigned. And at the time, I was already working full time as a college professor, director of criminal justice, so I had a good job. But I'm like, I had no fight in me, man. Like,
Yeah, it was
I was
beat
such a
down.
broken person.
Yeah. No, it's frustrating when you see all of it, and anybody that has two brain cells that can smash together and form a thought even once in a while can see what was happening. And I think it's a broken system that let you down. Ladies and gentlemen, that's where we're going to pause for right now. We need to pause because we got to take a breather from this. After everything, the PTSD, suicidal thoughts, the panic attack that forced him off the job, Kevin still fought for disability, hoping for some form of justice. But in the end, he had to walk away from it all, from that battle too. What came next would take his life in a direction that he never saw coming. To find out what that is, tune into the next episode and the continuation of our podcast and conversation with Keven McNeill. I'm JP, and this is The Passionate Leader. Lead with passion, serve with humility, and leave no room for bottom feeders. Until next time, guys, stay safe. The Passionate